Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, a man who gets cranky if he doesn't get his nap, my brother Mike.
That is a truism of all truisms, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a napper big time, and if I don't get one, you're going to get the bear. And the bear is a grumpy, grumpy bear.
He runs and moves like one too. It's surprisingly quick, for his girth. And so that's interesting, right? If you ever meet Mike, that's what it'll be like.
And here's the thing: I think nappers get like a bad rap or something. I think we are
napping is great.
Biologically we are designed to slow down in the middle of the day. There's info to back that up. So
yeah, I just slow down more than others to like a complete stop.
To a complete stop and unconsciousness. That's it.
Yes,
I mean,
that's it. That's all it is.
No problem there.
On this week's episode, we're going to look back at what was an up and down week for the Kansas City Royals. We're going to discuss some of the offensive changes as the Royals start doing some roster things to try and start this offense in its sluggish days. And then we're going to preview this week's games. The Royals have a 6-game homestand. We'll take a look at that. But first, a few reminders. One, a reminder to go out and subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack because we're doing a ticket giveaway that happens for the game on Friday. Right. So on May 27th, we'll do a ticket giveaway draw for all paid Substack subscribers. They will earn 2 tickets. A lucky winner will get 2 tickets to the May 30th Tigers Royals game. That is a $300 value of these 2 tickets. You get $20 of loaded food and drink value. You get it's Fireworks Friday. It's Big Slick. There's a lot of great stuff going on at this game.
Yeah, that also means if you're a paid Substack subscriber, make sure you're checking your email. Mm-hmm. Okay, check your email. We're going to reach out to you, try and get a hold of you as quickly as we can. But if you're not paying attention, we're not sure what to do.
Yes, we will give you 24 hours to respond, and then we're drawing another person. Okay?
That's right.
So yeah, make sure you're looking at your email, paid Substack subscribers. Also, we want to remind you to rate and review us on all the different platforms. Submit an Apple Podcast review. We'll read it here on the air or on the show or on the episode. Although this week we're going to read one that somebody sent in because they do not use Apple Podcast, and they were just like, I'm just going to submit my review via Facebook, and so they just sent me direct message to the Royals Weekly Facebook a review. So I'm going to read that from coming from Brian Payne. It says, "Hey, so I listen to you guys on Spotify, so I can't give it a grade, but I want to say I do enjoy the podcast. Love hearing the stats and friendly banter between brothers. I got to go down this past weekend and see Jack play, and man, what a player. Love listening and can't wait for the next week, and go Royals." Right?
Pain. Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much. We love hearing that. And yes, thanks for getting creative, reaching out to us to let us. We love hearing the reviews.
Pain's a problem solver, is what he is.
Yeah, yes, he is. And so, great job there, Mr. Brian Payne. We'll start the review of last week with roster news. This is going to be an interesting segment this week because there's been a lot of interesting roster news. Let's start with what kind of kicked it off for the week roster news-wise. The Royals designated Hunter Renfroe for assignment and then recalled Nick Lofton to the major leagues. So this is a thing that's been the Royals fans have been clamoring for. Mike, what are your thoughts on a switch of Renfroe for Lofton?
Well, I just have to kind of look at it from this point of view. One, I never want a person to lose their job. I put this out on Threads. I'm not going to cheer that Hunter Renfroe got released which this is designated for assignment, but essentially it's being released. And I'm not going to cheer that or anything. I don't want, I want the best for him and his family, but he's been well compensated for his time here in Kansas City, especially for the production he provided. But here's what, there's just a simple basic question that has to be answered here. If you're trying to win games, can you keep a Hunter Renfroe? Right?
Obviously.
It's almost inexcusable they kept him this long if they're actually trying to win games. And so great for Nick Lofton to get an opportunity. We saw him hit a double today in the game. I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm excited. And I talked to Lesky a little bit about this. Lesky kind of back and forth with me and put me in my place, if you will, because he's on a whole nother level of baseball knowledge than I am. But he's we were talking about basically what are the attributes that we're looking forward to seeing Lofton bring to the big leagues. And I was talking about his walk rate, and he's like, his walk rate is better, but it's not like his walk rate was ever bad. But he's talking about more about approach at the plate overall that impacts then his batted ball outcomes. Yeah. And that's, I think, really what is going to drive his success in Major League Baseball. If he can bring that from AAA to Major League Baseball, really excited for what he can bring to the lineup. But we'll talk about this more later on. Even if it's average, it's an increase in production. So we will take it.
Yeah, just imagine how much Drew Waters has seemed like an increase, and he's just basically been a league average hitter since he came up. And it's like, yeah, but that feels so much better than MJ Melendez rolling out a 15 weighted runs created plus. And so it is a drastic improvement if Lofton can be only league average. That'd be great. Losing Hunter Renfroe, yeah, I'm glad he got the money, because any money you make professional sports you earned, and so good on you. I hope he has a rest of his career, or maybe even bounces back and catches on with another team, whatever. Like, I want only good things for everybody. Nothing there. But the Royals needed to move on. The Royals have a lot of interesting options beyond Renfroe that are way cheaper, and so they really just had to sort of see what those guys might be, give them an opportunity. If they can be league average, then that'll be great. I think Lofton on an ideal team maybe fits a different role, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for now, it's time to see if he can help the offense. In other news, this is more breaking news. This came out tonight. Cavan Biggio has been optioned to AAA Omaha. There's no definitive word yet on who will be recalled to take his place, but John Rave was conspicuously not in the Omaha lineup today. And so there are those who are speculating that it's going to be Biggio down to AAA and Rave up. Now, most people thought that Cavan Biggio could not be optioned because he has more than 5 years of service time. However, it is the case that they offered him the option, and he has the choice to accept it or not. He chose to accept the option instead of declining the option, and then they would have to DFA him or something like that, right? And so he chose to be optioned, and he is still in the Royals organization. Mike, what are your thoughts on Biggio going down and Rave maybe potentially coming up?
Of course, I'm okay with it. I mean, I think Biggio is a good chance to take, because he's had some success in Major League Baseball. Now, don't get me wrong, it was his rookie year several years ago, but he's got an approach that works. I think there are some ways that let me put it this way. He's got an approach that can be worked with, that you can do something with, okay? He's got some ability that you can do something with. He's got the ability to play multiple positions. I think there are realms of baseball where Cavan Biggio could be a productive utility guy at the major league level. He's not there right now, though, and you need to win right now. And so this is another one of those moves that you do if you're trying to win games. You get him out of there. You see what you have in John Rave. If Rave can translate to Major League Baseball and help you in a corner outfield, or help you with the value that he gives on the bases, or the other thing, if he can hit, great. Then you bring him up, you see what you have. Biggio wasn't giving you a whole lot at the plate, and so if Rave gives you that or anything more, it's worth it.
It is, and it is worth it just to also see what Rave can be at this point. Like, he's reached that age as a prospect. It's time. He's 27.
He's like 27, yeah.
He's been through like two rounds of the Rule 5 draft, and nobody's taken him. And so, like, it's time to see what he's got. He's probably going to offer something more than a Biggio, who's not having a good year right now. Like, he's not being very offensively productive. That being said, I like the idea of having Biggio down in AAA, because you know that if you ever need that value back, which is mostly like position versatility and some on-base ability, he's right down there in AAA. Like, it's not bad if Biggio is your 26th guy. That's not a bad thing. But they have a couple guys in Rave and Lofton who they want to give a shot to. They have, Cam Devaney and looks like Jac Caglianone, who might be on deck as well to get an offensive opportunity, or opportunity to help the offense. They have to try it. They have to try and get something to score more than 3 runs a game, and that's Rave. Yeah. Rave may not ultimately stick, but he has a chance to, and you have to see if he can do something.
Yeah, and you mentioned Devaney. If I'm Michael Massey, I am feeling quite uncomfortable right now in Major League Baseball, because Cam Devaney's hitting the shit out of the baseball. And I know he's old. He's a much older prospect as well. But for a team that's contending, if you want to make the playoffs, if you want to make a run, you're Michael Massey. You have options. You aren't hitting or producing at any sort of thing close to Major League average. What's keeping him here?
Good question. And it's not just Devaney. Nick Lofton plays second base all the time too. He can play second base. So yeah, I'd be feeling pressured. We're not going to discuss this next bit of roster news, but I do think it's important, and that is that Luke Maile was outrighted to Omaha. which means that they had to DFA Luke Maley. They can't just option him. He has too much service time and all this sort of stuff. And so he had to pass through waivers. Well, he must have passed through waivers because they've outrighted him to Omaha, which means he's going to stay in the organization. So if Salvi or Freddie Fermin get hurt, we could potentially see him again. On the field this week, it was more of the same for the Royals. The pitching dominated, the hitting struggled, and it all added up to a 500 record. The boys went 3-3, bringing their overall record to 29-25. Good for only fourth in the AL Central. You're up 4 on 500, and you're only fourth in the AL Central. Like, real good division. They took 2 of 3 from the Giants to start the week, and then narrowly avoided a sweep at the hands of the Twins by squeaking out an extra innings win today in Game 3. All 3 of those games very, very close. Mike, how are you feeling about what happened on the field last week?
It feels worse than 500 because you lost the division series of the week. Plus, the Guardians took 3 of 4 from the Tigers to kind of vault you, and now they're above the Royals in the standings. And so it didn't feel like a 500 week. It didn't feel like a good week at all, especially you go into San Francisco, you win 2 of 3 against a good Giants team. They're not a bad team. And so you feel like, oh, we're going into the Twins, who are a little banged up like they always are. They, now they were hot when we were going in Minnesota. The Twins were one of the hottest teams in baseball, but you felt like, oh, just a little bit more offense and we sweep this series. Just a little bit more offense and we sweep this series. And it just was like two walk-offs. And then you have to win one in the 10th. I mean, it was insane.
Remember that they scored 8 runs in that final game of that Giants series too. So there was this notion that maybe the offense is turning a corner here. It does not look like the case. The Twins series kind of felt like a little final straw for me for the offense. Like, it feels like even the Royals front office is like, all right, that's enough of this. Like, we can't be scoring 2 runs a game and stuff like that. And so looks like maybe they're going to take some action, which I like to see. Mike, the Royals did nab 3 wins. Who stood out to you as the people who were primarily contributing to those wins?
Oh, man. Chris Bubich, although I think he took I don't know if he took the loss, but they didn't win the first start he had this week, did they?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember.
But Chris Bubich was unbelievable this week in the 2 starts that he got. 14 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 4 hits in 14 innings pitched. 4. He's in another place right now. 5 walks and 14 strikeouts. The guy has been fantastic all year long. And gosh, and I almost did Noah Cameron because Noah Cameron was so good this week. He looked unbelievable.
He looks like a little Chris Bubich out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like he looks like Chris Bubich. Well, they're very different profiles, but both left-handed, both have benefited greatly from this Royals pitching development by adding pitches and changing their, profile a little bit and doing different things and being coachable. That's a big thing. But I had to go with Bubich because the numbers were just too good. And the 2 starts were just so damn good to know that we've got him for at least a little bit longer. And actually speaking of Lesky, we talked about him, put out a fantastic article this week about what do you do with Chris Bubich now? The options, different options that they have for him as far as re-signing him to an extension, trading, the different times you could do those things, just letting his our arbitration years run out, all that sort of stuff. So that's a good read. If you didn't get a chance, go back and read that. But I got to give props to Chris Bubich, and I got to give props to Brian Sweeney, Zach Bove, because wow, never thought that Chris Bubich would be this kind of guy.
Yeah, it's really remarkable that right now I'm seeing lists of like top 5 pitchers in Major League Baseball, top 10 or whatever. I saw him on one of those lists the other day. Like, people are like, okay, Chris Bubich might be one of the best starters in Major League Baseball this year, which is wild to me. Wild. My strong performer for this week is another guy the Royals kind of have needed to bounce back, and he has bounced back pretty hard this week. Last week, Vinny Pasquantino is my strong performer. He was 11 for 24 with 1 double, 1 home run, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. The at-bats just look so much more confident. He looks so much more decisive and confident in the batter's box. And so getting to see him turn it around has been really great. He's also just getting some hits to fall. If you've been watching these, some of them have been little bloops to the outfield and stuff like that, which I feel like luck-wise, he deserves that side of it after the rough start that he had. But him sitting in the middle of that lineup, Bobby Witt Jr. up near the top, and now with the maybe looming prospect of a Jac Caglianone sliding somewhere in there, you got to think if those three are sort of in that position, they might have a chance to actually turn this offense around. Hopefully. That's all we have for strong performers. What are we doing for weak performers? Mike, who did not show out this week?
Yeah, there were a few candidates here in the weak performer thing, but I wanted to talk about Daniel Lynch because this was an interesting week for him. The Royals put him into two situations that he really hasn't been in yet this year, and he struggled in both. So he was the opener in the game where they skipped. Was it Reagan's start or Lugo's start?
I think it's Reagan's.
I thought it was Lugo's.
No, might be Lugo's.
I think it was Lugo's start. So he was the opener, and you want your opener in this situation to get 2 full innings. He did not get there. He had traffic on the bases. He was struggling to locate pitches. Like, it did not work out well. It meant they ended up using a ton of bullpen arms in that game, which didn't end up affecting them necessarily for the whole series, and they had a day off, so it wasn't a huge deal. But you would rather see Daniel Lynch thrive in a situation if you need him there than not. Then they put him in a somewhat high leverage position. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And he didn't look great there either. And it's like, dang it. So he went 2 1/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks. And if you watched him in that second appearance this week, it looked like kind of old Daniel Lynch, where he was a little bit afraid to be in the strike zone because it looked like he might get hit. It just didn't look the same it has kind of the rest of this year. So I'm not necessarily worried about him or anything like that. The changeup still looked okay. I liked the slider a little bit, but he didn't seem to have a lot of confidence in the fastball, and he definitely didn't locate it very well in that second appearance. So Daniel Lynch, I don't know. I think I don't know if those. I think I would try him as an opener again if they need another one at some point. And I definitely think he can work in the bullpen, but I think he needs to get used to some of those roles. And if he wants those high leverage situations, he's got to prove he can handle them.
Yeah, absolutely. And some guys are like that. Some guys, that's just not, they're not made for those moments, you know? It's okay. It doesn't mean he can't have value. It just means that maybe those aren't the moments for him. My weak performer, sadly, I'm going to go with somebody we actually talked about last week as a weak performer as well. And that's just because he's the last guy left who you're like, you're weighing on this offense. You know?
You're an anchor.
So, I'm going with Michael Massey. He was 5 for 24 this last week at the plate, 0 extra base hits, 0 walks, and 4 strikeouts. That's not great. That's really not great. There's not much more to say. I mean, the lucky thing is he has options, so he can go down. They can sort of get him off the 26-man without losing him to the organization because he does have a lot of tools you would like working with. Really good glove at second, seems to run the bases pretty well, has some pop to his bat, all that sort of thing. But you cannot have this approach at the plate and succeed in Major League Baseball consistently. It's just, you're not Jacob Wilson. You're not Luis Ariz. You're not Stephen Kwan. You don't have that kind of hit tool. So you cannot swing.
Yeah, the bat to ball ability just is not there for that level of aggression.
No. It's good. It's not elite like those guys'.
Yeah.
Mike, in a week that was half on, half off here, what are you going with for a theme?
I went with a classic. A baseball movie applies. This is right down Broadway. I mean, this is just shouted to you here. Okay. The legendary Moneyball movie starring one Brad Pitt. I went with and I think you and I were talking about this not that long ago.
You said this to me the other day.
Yeah. It's, if he's a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? And I was actually thinking about Michael Massey when I decided to go with this one. If he's a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? Okay. There's so many guys on this Royals team that you can say about that. MJ Melendez, Hunter Renfroe, Michael Massey. And you're like going, okay, if he's such a good hitter, why the hell doesn't he hit good? Why does he continue to get, double-digit at-bats every single week, so much playing time, if he isn't producing offensively? I think the Royals are finally starting to say, okay, that's not going to last because we cannot do that and contend in a division where we're in 4th place with 4 games over 500. This is a competitive division. There's good teams at the top. You have to be able to produce offensively. Does anybody feel like if we score 3 runs in a game, 2 or 3 runs, we're going to win? We have great pitching, but I don't feel like we're going to win. I honestly, if you said today, Mike, put your money down here. Are we going to score 3 runs this game? I would not bet on that ever right now. 3 runs feels like 20 at this point. And so too many guys that are good hitters that don't hit in this lineup.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm always looking to get a little Moneyball humor into the theme, so I love it. Great job. Great work. I'm going with another musical theme here from not a musical, but from a great song from Sam Cooke called "A Change Is Gonna Come." And I'm thinking about the roster turnover. I'm thinking about the upgrades to the offense the Royals are trying to do. If you've heard the song, you know it's very soulful and very good. I cannot sing that way, so I'll just recite it. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come.
You ever heard the story of how he died? It is messed up.
I'm going to cut it right after died there, so it doesn't matter. Oh, that's going to be a good cut. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Do you have the same fantasy we do, retiring to a land of eternal summer? If so, you need to call Eric Oxer of West USA Realty pronto. He can help you transition to a lovely home in the Phoenix area and a life of fun in the sun.
Just saw a study that vitamin D is linked to vitality later in life. Hashtag science. I'll drink to that.
Science, y'all. Eric was one of the top real estate agents in the Phoenix area to end 2024 because he gives all of his clients a personal experience focused entirely on their needs. With Eric Oxer of West USA Realty, it's not about him, it's about you. He's there to listen to you, work for you, and guide you through the ins and outs of buying and selling in the Phoenix area.
Eric is like the Yoda of Phoenix real estate, all-knowing and all-wise. Plus, he fits into a little backpack.
Yep. Find Eric Oxer of West USA Realty online at ericoxer.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. If you're at all interested in what a life in the Phoenix area might hold, let him make the experience all about you. For a team that's pretty strongly in playoff contention, the Royals are making quite a few roster moves, even with even more on the horizon. The goal to get this offense going. They DFA'd Hunter Renfroe and recalled Nick Lofton. They optioned Kevin Biggio and look poised to roster John Rave. But there are 2 other options in AAA worth considering as well. Cam Devaney has probably been the best hitter in AAA all season with exactly 1 OPS. So not 999, 1. And of course, Jac Caglianone has been an absolute tear since he began AAA. He's got 5 home runs in 6 games and a 1280 OPS. Insane. Mike, how do you feel about all this roster turnover?
I feel hopeful. I feel hopeful that the Royals can get to a level of average offensive production, or, it doesn't even have to be average. If they're the 20th best offense in Major League Baseball, they're making the playoffs. Okay, that's how good their pitching has been, both starting rotation and bullpen. 20th best. That's all I'm asking for, especially considering the production that these guys could be replacing. You're replacing a production that's so low that it's a bump no matter what. Even slightly below average is quite a bump on this team if you're taking out the bottom 2 guys. And so there's a potential, too, that you could see a lot more. Like, I did not expect Jac Caglianone to get to AAA and do this right away. And you know what's wild? His bat BIP is 2.22. That's what he's hitting on batted average balls in play right now. And so now, is the aggression still pretty high? Yes, it is. But and unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to really see him take at bats in AAA, so I can't speak to this. But some people that I respect are saying the plate appearances still look much better, even though the aggression is still pretty high. And so I will take that. Like, I don't need him to be a guy that walks necessarily, because he's hitting bombs. And if he's hitting bombs and he's producing that way, I will take it every single day. I'm ready to see a lot more from this. I think you got a chance to get, even so, think of it as 4 guys between Lofton, Caglianone, Rave, and Devaney. If 2 of those guys are below average major leaguers and Jac Caglianone is above average and one of them is average, do you know how much better you just made this offense?
Yeah, so much better.
You just made this offense like double. You may double the runs per game doing that. I mean, because they're so low right now. Also because it's so low right now. But I'm excited. I'm very hopeful for that. Yes. How about you? What are you thinking of this group coming up?
I think it's. I'm excited about it too, and I think in part I'm excited because of what it says about the hitting development to some degree. That John Rave and Cam Devaney, who sort of nobody ever had expectations for, would have panned out to this degree. Even if they don't end up sticking, like it's amazing that they were able to turn those guys into something. Even if it's quad A players. And like you said, if one of them hangs on, what a huge win that is to get guys who at one time, like Cam Devaney is considered a non-prospect. John Rave is considered a non-prospect. They've both been passed up in the Rule 5 draft multiple times. Okay. And so they're non-prospects, and yet the hitting development may have turned them into what, league average hitters? Does it look like John Rave has a shot to be a league average hitter? I think it does. Not to mention an average fielder above average in the corners. It looks like Cam Devaney has at least an outside shot to be a league average hitter. That's wild.
If he's a league average hitter, he's a hell of a utility guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
A hell of a utility guy. Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's a big win, because if you're thinking about the Royals moving forward, it's not just that they're going to make this lineup better, maybe, right? It's that this lineup has a better chance to be deeper. The roster has a better chance to be deeper for 5-6 years, because those guys have 0 MLB service time, right? And so
you got them for 6 years.
You got them for 6 years, right? Sorry, not 5, 6. So you got them for 6 years. If one of them pans out, you've now found a diamond in the rough, because you have 6 years of that person for very cheap, and nobody had any expectations for him. It's wild, right? Mike, do you, going on to the second question, do you think that there's a way to get all 4 of Lofton, Devaney, Rave, and Caglianone on the 26-man roster? Is that even possible?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's possible, but I'm not sure that it's something that the Royals are going to even explore, because it means probably sending Massey down, which is a tough move for them, I think. They don't like doing that. I don't know why. And that's the kicker, is it also means you're probably sending either Blanco or Waters down as well. Waters has been hitting. Blanco is your kind of ace up the sleeve late inning guy, or you're cutting Mark Canha, which that seems tough to me too. So it seems tough to have all 4 of those guys on the roster at the same time on the 26 man without like an injury or something. Now, I think they probably wait a little longer on Jac Caglianone. I think they do. Part of me kind of hopes they do too. Well, and then part of me is like, get him up here. I'm excited. I just want to see him hit every day. But, it's tough with those numbers and with the guys that I feel like they like in certain roles, because there's just not a lot of fat necessarily to be trimmed outside of Massey going down.
I thought I trimmed some of that fat earlier. I put out a lineup earlier that looked like they'd have room for those 2 guys, or for all 4 of these guys. It of course will require Massey to go down, but I don't think we're honestly that far from that happening. Like, it's just been so bad for quite a while, and so that's a possibility for sure. And then how, in terms of like what roles they would play and stuff like that, you could think of rotations. So it would mean less playing time for a Drew Waters, for example, maybe. But maybe you got a platoon going with him and, say, Nick Lofton, because Waters only hits well left-handed, really. And so, there are some things they'll have to consider. But I think it's possible that they all get on the 26-man roster. Or maybe just Lofton, Rave, Devaney for a little bit, and then Jac Caglianone.
Yeah, and then whichever one of those guys doesn't work out necessarily goes back down and Jack comes up. I think that's probably more likely than seeing them all on the roster at once, because, I mean, the kind of wild card to me is they don't, for some reason, it doesn't seem like they like Mark Canha. And so maybe they are willing to say bye to him. Another team was this year. I mean, that's, wouldn't be, you're not really missing out on much.
He's done pretty much what you could have expected. I mean, like,
exactly. But maybe they're like, hey, we can get that and a little bit more out of John Rave or whatever, And so I don't know. Maybe I would see this as if it is John Rave and it's Lofton and next it's Devaney and Caglianone stays down, I consider that an audition for those 3 to see who's going to be the 1 or 2 that stay up long enough until Caglianone is ready to go, and then he comes up and somebody goes down.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mike, let's just say hypothetically all four do get on the roster. How do you think each would be used?
Well, I'm going to say something and then I'm going to immediately contradict it when we talk about the next thing, if that's cool with
Good,
you.
good. That sounds great. Consistency.
Sounds like
That's
a
our
Joe
key.
Rogan podcast or something. All right, here we go. So I think Lofton eventually ends up playing quite a bit of second base because I think Massey goes down. And I think what I've seen from India, I think India ends up then DHing more just because of how bad he's been in the field. He's been bad at second too. And I know, hey, he didn't play there very much early on, so maybe you give him a little bit more time to get comfortable, whatever. He's looked bad in the field, period. Doesn't matter where you put him. Okay. So it wouldn't surprise me if you see Lofton a little bit more at second and India DHing more. Raven Devaney, I see as rotational guys. I think Jack DHs when he can, but then has to play right some, because I don't think you're going to take Vinny out of first base that often. Sal will have to be the DH some, or Salvi will have to be the DH some as well. So that's a tough one. I think Jack, I think if the Royals could go back and do it again, they'd have played Caglianone and Wright pretty much nonstop this year. And they just didn't do that early on when he was in AA. So I know they're trying to make up for it now, and maybe they've got a little bit of time to get him comfortable and right, but I think he ends up playing some right field this year if he comes up, even if he doesn't look great there.
Yeah. I think Lofton fits the Biggio role best. Like, that's the role that fits him best. Like, in an ideal roster here, he would play that role instead of like we need you to play 4 or 5 times a week because our offense is so bad, But Rave feels more like a fourth outfielder to me, on a roster that you would be like happy with. And
yeah,
so I think maybe that ends up being his role.
Does that make Waters then
I don't know.
an everyday guy, a third outfielder?
I don't know. I'll read my lineup to you here in a second. But yeah, it just depends. Like, I think those are the roles that fit them best. They might have to do something different on this team. Devaney could maybe be their everyday second baseman. Like, he's got the secondary metrics and stuff like that look really promising, and has the best chance, one of the best chances to stick offensively of this group. So we'll see. Mike, we're talking about lineups basically. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us what your preferred lineup would be if all four of these guys were in the major leagues? Do a little fantasizing for us here.
Okay, well, here's where I completely contradict the thing I just said. Okay, so I think if all were to work out, this is kind of how I would like it. And this was very hard, by the way. It's very difficult based on what I've seen this year so far and all that sort of stuff. But for me, it's Jonathan India leading off, playing second base. That is assuming that he smooths it out at second base and really just becomes the second baseman that he's been. He's been an average second baseman in Major League Baseball in years past. He just hasn't been very good this year. Also, I do like the on-base ability. I know he's not hitting as much as we would like him to do, but he is still taking walks. He is still getting on base some. And some people will be saying, no, Michael needs to hit there. There's a reason why I didn't put Michael there. I want him at the bottom or in the middle of the lineup to either drive in runs and or get on base for Jac Caglianone. So we'll get to that here in a second. Hitting number 2, Bobby, of course, at short. 3 is Vinny at first. 4 still Salvi catching, which there's some stuff to that too. Then Michael, and to play the kind of what I see as a pivotal role there at the 5 spot. You're there to drive in runs if the other guys can't, but you're also there to set up Jac Caglianone right behind him, DHing, batting 6th. Then Lofton, Waters, and Isbell. Okay, that also sets up pretty nicely. Other than at the top, you have righty, but then it's lefty, lefty, righty, switch hitter, lefty. And so you got some mixing up there that you can do as well. So it's a lineup that I like if everything kind of falls right for them.
Makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and read mine. It differs from yours drastically, but I think has basically the same people in it. Okay. 1 playing third is Garcia. Hitting second at shortstop is Bobby Witt Jr. Hitting third at DH is Jac Caglianone.
Yeah, putting him in the 3 spot right out of the gate.
There. He's hit there his whole damn career, his whole life. At 4, I'm putting Salvador Perez catching. At 5, I'm putting Vinny playing first base. At 6th, I'm having Cam Devaney playing second. At 7th, I have John Rave playing right field. 8th, I have Lofton playing left field. And then 9th, I have Isbell playing center field with a bench of Fermin, Waters, Blanco, and India. And so
So
I don't
you're
know.
not you're not your ideal lineup does not include the guy they traded Brady Singer for this offseason.
Well, not necessarily. Now, I would see this as highly rotational, and so India would still play a lot, but like this is what I'm thinking if all four of them get in a lineup. You know. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All In Physical Therapy, who are happy to announce that they will soon offer strength and conditioning programs for young athletes, youth athletes. Starting in June, which is only like 5 days away, 6 days away, they'll offer strength and conditioning for athletes who want to gain an edge on the football field, the basketball court, or the baseball field.
I got to increase my vertical leap number.
What is it now?
It's like 25.
25 inches, that sounds pretty good. I don't know.
No, that's 25 McDonald's wrappers. You see, that's how I measure everything in life.
You just lay them out flat?
Lay them out flat.
All right, that makes sense. Of course, All In still offers the best in recovery from total joint surgeries, sports injuries with offices and sports injuries with offices in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and Belton. They'll help you take care of your recently replaced hips, knees, shoulders, elbows, you name it.
If I had some new knees, I bet I could jump over like 100 McDonald's wrappers. Probably.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
If you're interested in reaching the peak of your athletic performance or getting back to 100% from an injury, check out All In Physical Therapy at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com. Or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. The Royals are back home this week for a 6-game homestand. Starting Monday, they'll take on the Cincinnati Reds for 3 games. They get a day off on Thursday, followed by a very important 3-game series against the division-leading Detroit Tigers. One lucky paid Substack subscriber will be going to the opening game of that series, so make sure you're subscribed for that. Mike, tell us all about the Reds, a team that we don't see all that often.
The Cincinnati Reds.
The Fighting Singers.
Yeah, the would-be doormats of the NL Central if the Pittsburgh Pirates didn't exist. Wait, no, they aren't in the Central, are they?
Yeah, National League Central.
Are they in the Are the Pirates in the National League Central? I thought they were in the East.
Yeah, both of them are. Yeah.
Well, the Reds play in the old Great American Ballpark. Great place to be. They've got some talent, but they always seem to screw it up. Anyway, 26 and 28 for the Reds. They're 4th in the NL Central. We've got Michael Lorenzen versus Nick Martinez, the 34-year-old righty out of Fordham. 3.43 ERA and a 1.14 whip. He's having a good year, old Nick Martinez. 4-seam fastball, 92 to 93, a changeup, a cutter, a sinker, a slider, and a curveball. He doesn't strike out many at just 18.7% strikeout rate, but he doesn't walk many either at 5.7%. He prevents guys from pulling the ball in the air, keeps them off balance. That is his game. That'll be an interesting matchup. 2 somewhat similar pitchers there, Michael Lorenzen and Nick Martinez. Game 2. We don't know who the starting pitcher will be because that is Cole Reagan's spot, I believe. But it is the return of young Brady Singer to the K. 28-year-old righty out of Florida. You guys remember him. He's got a 4.88 ERA and a 1.35 whip. Sinker baller, 92 to 93. We remember that. He throws a slider, cutter, 4-seamer, sweeper, mark. Okay, you got it up here. Sinker and slider about 74% of the time. The strikeout rate is down a bit, and the walk rate is up a bit. So he still refuses to throw those other pitches. He still has other pitches. He just
that's down pretty significantly. Remember, it was over 80% at one time. It was
That's true. We used to remember for the over under. We used to do 85%.
Yeah,
we used to do 85% for sinker and slider. So way to go, Brady. Really mixing it up. That third game is going to be an interesting one. Noah Cameron, Joetown's finest, and seemingly major league ace at this point. I think we can safe enough to say. Mm-hmm. Versus Hunter Green, was he the number 1 pick one year?
I don't know. I can't
remember if he was number 1. Definitely top 5 pick in Major League Baseball the year he was drafted. 25-year-old out of Notre Dame High School in California. He's got a 2.54 ERA and a 0.85 whip. He's got one of the biggest power arms in Major League Baseball. A 4-seam fastball at 99 to 100.
That's
slider.
What he sits. That's his average.
He sits
averages
at 99 to 100.
over 99 miles an hour.
Yeah. Guys, Guy's a flamethrower, a slider, a splitter, and a curveball. He throws the fastball 58% of the time, the slider 33% of the time. The other two pitches, I think he throws just because he gets bored with the other two. K rate among the highest in baseball at 32.6%, and his walk rate is down to 5.2. He is a legit dominant arm in Major League Baseball. So that'll be interesting to see that contrasting style with Noah Cameron, who's making his fourth start in Major League Baseball and is a completely different type of pitcher than what Hunter Green is. So, God, that would be awesome to see Noah Cameron go out there and do what he's done in his first three starts and win a game against Hunter Green. That would be unbelievable.
That'd be cool. That would be cool. After that, the Royals get a day off, and then the Tigers come to town. They are 34-12, which is first in the AL Central, but only second in all of Major League Baseball. So in your face. Offensively, the Tigers are very, very good. They have a 110 weighted runs created plus as a team. That's sixth in Major League Baseball. They have a list of 9 hitters with weighted runs created plus above league average. Right?
Jesus.
Yeah, most of them are play regularly or every day. Spencer Torkelson's leading the bunch with a 143 weighted runs created plus, but Gleyber Torres, Javi Baez, Kerry Carpenter, Dylan Dingler, they all have weighted runs created pluses over 100, and they're all doing real well. I believe Riley Green does as well. On the pitching side, don't worry, they're real good at that too. 3.39 ERA for the pitching staff as a whole. That's seventh in Major League Baseball. Tarek Skubal having another great year with a 2.87 ERA. Reese Olson, 2.96. The resurgence of Casey Mize continues. He's got a 2.45 ERA. The rotation's good. The bullpen's good. The whole damn team is good. And so they're going to have to play real well to end that homestand on a high note. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just About Outside segment where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Mike, I just saw you earlier today, so I hope you didn't catch me up on everything. What do you got for the Just About Outside segment this week?
Well, it's something you already know about me, and I've taught you all these things as you often come from. I'm more like a mentor than a brother to you.
So, in some ways, that's true. I mean, that is true in some ways.
But so I was hanging out with some coworkers. I'm a teacher by trade. And I was hanging out with some of them, and they kind of know that personal finance is like my big hobby kind of thing. So I got kind of a rep there. And so they always want to come to me for financial advice and stuff. This has been going on for a while. And so I freely offer that financial advice, but I always tell them like what I'm going to tell you guys. I am not a financial advisor. Like this is not my job. I did not go to school for any of this. I just went out and taught myself a lot about personal finance. And so some younger people that I work with, they were asking me some questions on like, hey, how can I save a bunch of money? And so I was like, let me just keep it kind of simple for you guys, or give you kind of my 3 biggest things. And so I thought I'd share that here. Here's my kind of 3 biggest things for building wealth for middle class people like me. Okay. It's this: when it comes to investing, okay, keep it simple. Okay. Invest in index funds that invest in the entire market, whether that's the entire US market or the entire global market. Very simple that way. That will also keep it broad. Okay. Also, you don't need 30 million accounts. Like 3 is like the max, or 4. Okay. Now, sometimes you can't help that. And I understand that, but that's the keep it simple part. Keeping it broad is that you're going to invest in, you're not going to pick stocks. Okay. You're not going to pick a company to invest in. Broadly, like I'm investing in the entire American stock market, the entire S&P, mutual funds. I'm going to stick it in mutual funds because that's going to diversify you automatically. I'm doing that in the entire world stock markets, whatever it is. Okay. And then the last one is just a classic saying that people have been using forever, but I believe in wholeheartedly. Time in the market is better than timing the market, right? People think that because I'm 39 years old and I've been able to save some money, that I must be really good at picking investments. I am not. I don't think anybody is, honestly.
No one is. All the research says nobody is.
It's like gambling, right? People think there's people out there who are just really good at gambling, right? Sports gambling, when really there aren't that many people that are good at it. And they're not even necessarily, the people who are good at it aren't really good at it. They're good at math, right? That's what they're good at. And so they are able to find little math tricks to use to help them make money. If you're not good at math like me, then it's not about picking this one thing or this one thing. And, I knew this was coming. And so I picked this and I was able to be ahead of everybody. Nobody can do that. And once you accept that, then it becomes easier to build wealth. Time in the market is better than timing the market. Put your money in and let it sit there, and put your money in consistently every single month. Put money in every single month consistently. Start small like I did. $100 a month is what I started with. And just let it sit there and let it go. Like that's what I do. That's the advice that I gave these whippersnappers, these youngsters. And it's stuff that I believe in. So go find yourself a financial advisor. Maybe they'll say the same things. I hope they do.
And now they're all living on the moon.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. The other thing about financial advisors, you don't necessarily need one. You can teach yourself all of this. All right. Great resources in books, podcasts, YouTube channels, all that sort of stuff. You can find great things. I watched a fantastic YouTube video yesterday from a guy who is a financial advisor, and learned just a small little trick that I'm going to use later on in my kind of retirement planning and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, pick up that there. And I've picked up a million other things from a million other places and kind of developed a plan of my own. And you can do that too, because I'm not that smart.
He is not. I can confirm. But yeah, I love it too. I follow basically everything I hear from Mike, and it's going pretty well. So that's nice. I'm talking about something that maybe I should have talked about before, or I'm experiencing things this week that I probably should have experienced already in my life. So for example, right before this, I was watching the Lemonade Beyonce music video experience. I don't know if it's like a film. It's like an hour-long film that came out with her album Lemonade, but it's from like 2017. I'm just now getting caught up to that. But I also watched a thing that came out many years ago, earlier this week, and I want to talk about that. It's a little film, just a little, probably Academy Award-winning film called Teen Wolf 2. Okay, have you ever seen, Mike? Have you ever heard of or seen this film?
I've seen the original, if it's what I'm thinking. Yeah, the Michael J. Fox movie. I've seen that.
Yeah,
Teen Wolf.
Yeah, that is a semi-competent movie. Teen Wolf 2 is exactly the opposite.
I see you're spelling 2 T-O-O.
Yeah, that's how they spell it too. I wanted to get it right? And so it stars Jason Bateman, a young Jason Bateman.
Oh, he's a legend.
And you would think, oh, so it must be hilarious. He's very funny, all this sort of. It is not funny. Okay, it is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. No, it's not dark either. It's just you ever see a movie that you know how like workplace training videos seem like they're kind of like not attached to anything. Like the people in it are doing it for no reason at all. Like it, that's what this movie feels like. It's not funny because it's not a comedy, because nothing comical is happening, but it's also like not a good story because no story is happening. No drama is happening. Nothing is happening. The actors just showed up and said the lines that were on the page, and they're terrible. Like they're terrible lines.
And the lines weren't good either.
No, it's that bad. But if you ever get a chance, I highly recommend watching it just for the funsies of it, because just to see how
that kind of makes me mad though, because they sullied the good name of Teen Wolf. Teen Wolf is a great movie.
Well, I think Michael J. Fox didn't sign up for Teen Wolf 2 because he knew that this boat wasn't going to float for too long. So,
yeah, he's like, hey, give it to Bateman.
Yeah, well, I saw an interview with Michael J. Fox once where he was like, I was convinced Teen Wolf was going to bomb so hard, was going to end my career. Like, wow, that's incredible. Like,
but when you're Michael J. Fox, you can take a turd like Teen Wolf and go, take up the premise of Teen Wolf is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing. But you're Michael J. Fox, and so
you're perfect. You can do whatever you want. That's all we have for you on this baseball podcast, in case you can't tell. Thank you for joining us here at Royals Weekly. Make sure you're paying attention to your emails for those of you paid Substack subscribers, because we're going to be contacting a winner here in a few days. Yes, we'll be back again next week. Until then, be good to each other.
And go Royals.